Hi and welcome back to the Baby Lock Shack, and today we're going to be taking a look at the blind hem foot. Now the blind hem foot is easily identified because it has an H in there. It has a screw on the front and it has a guide along the side. So you can line up the edge of your fold in your fabric for your blind hem in exactly the way that you would do on your sewing machine. Now, it's never going to look as neat and tidy as it does on your sewing machine because the maximum stitch length you can achieve on this is the 4mm stitch length, and that does not really compare to the type of stitch that you can get on a sewing machine. So what we have to do is line up the edge of the guide so that your needle goes just into the fold in the fabric. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But first off, we need to thread this machine for a 2-thread flat lock. So to set up for the blind hem foot, we need to use a 2-thread flat lock. So first off, I close the tubes and we're going to use the lower looper, making sure of course that the foot is up. And needle overlock 2. Now if I put this needle thread down the normal channel, it is going to give me a very short length of thread in the needle and a very long length of thread in the looper, purely because the Baby Lock machine delivers the correct length of thread to create that stitch. I'm going to need the same length of thread in both looper and needle. So what I'm going to do is put my needle thread down the channel for the upper looper. And that way I'm going to guarantee that I get the same length in both channels, which will make my flat lock much easier to set up. Now I'm going to take it straight across here and into the needle in the normal way. I always cut my thread at an angle before I thread it. It means it's easier to get into the eye of the needle. And there we go. And I generally will take the looper thread under the foot. It just makes it easier for the machine to start off with that stitch. Now let's see if I can move you in a bit, because I am about to, let's open those so you can probably see a bit better. I'm going to engage the subsidiary looper, which is this beastie here. So I pull it back and flip it over. And now that is in place and will push the lower looper thread around the needle in order to create that stitch. If you're going down to 2 threads, you've always got to get that fully engaged. Let's see if I can get you in a bit further. There. So you can get that fully engaged like so. I'm going to do it again so you can see. Take it out, flip it over, make sure it's engaged. Some of the older machines, if you own an Evolve or an Evolve Wave, or sometimes even the Evolution, you have to push that back slightly in order to get it engaged in the eye of the looper. But the eye is there, and on these more modern machines it slots in automatically for you. Okay, so we're ready to go. My stitch selector I put to B. I want my stitch length at maximum, which is 4, and I'm going to set my stitch width at around 6.5. Now this is the normal way of folding your hem. So you fold it up in the normal way and then back on itself. So what we are aiming to do is to get the stitches from the needle into the very edge of that fabric, and then this bit will be trimmed off and over edged with the looper. So we need to, and I might add, if I'm doing woven fabric, I will press it first. This is a stretch Ponte Roma. If I'm using a jersey, the easiest way to do it is to actually spray starch, particularly on a single jersey, because they have an inclination to just, sorry, can't talk, can't speak. They have an inclination to curl at the very edge of the fabric. So if you spray starch them first, you'll find that this edge behaves much better and it doesn't curl while you're trying to stitch it. So now we're just going to stitch along the very edge of the fabric. Obviously, I don't recommend that you do it in a very bright contrast colour as I'm doing here, but you're better off doing it with a matching thread colour. Sorry, slight lapse of concentration then, because I was watching what I was doing. Should have trimmed that because it's crawling along over the top. Thank God for the fact that we have speed control on these machines, because I would far rather stitch slowly and carefully than rush at it and then have to unpick afterwards.